Hello and welcome to this Londoners presentation of the No Huddle. My name is Ollie, I'm joined by Mo and Ben. Today we'll be previewing Super Bowl LVIII between the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs, of course a rematch of Super Bowl 54. Really good game we've got on our hands today, guys.
Can't wait. It's going to be a classic.
It's going to be a classic, I think so. So we'll be previewing the two teams, how they've got to the Super Bowl, some of the key narratives entering the game, some of the key matchups that will determine the winner of the game as well, and then our predictions. So we're getting stuck into that.
Really exciting stuff.
Really exciting stuff. So of course, Sunday, February 11th. Don't forget, 11:30 p.m. UK time. I know you'll all be tuning in. We will be as well, of course.
We've got no excuses. They're showing it free on ITV this year, aren't they? So I mean, you've got to be watching.
And if you're looking for the best places to watch, be sure to keep a lookout on the Southwest London for the best places to watch a Super Bowl.
Exactly.
I know I will be.
Shameless plug there, Mo, but yeah,
Shameless
you're absolutely
plug,
right.
of course.
Need a bit of self-promotion on the video stream.
NFC champion 49ers, of course, taking on the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs in Las Vegas. I believe the first Super Bowl in Vegas?
Yeah, that is correct. Automatically adds a bit of extra glitz and glamour to it, doesn't it? The show, the spectacle of Vegas. I mean, let's just hope the two teams can serve up a spectacle to match it, really.
Yeah, you can never really go wrong with Vegas. It's now the hotspot for all sports, especially the big four in America as well. And I think it will be a show to remember. It will be a game to remember, both on and off the pitch.
Absolutely. And of course, with Taylor Swift possibly in attendance, it's going to be a big one. It's going to be a big one. So we'll start then looking at the 49ers. How have they got to this point, Mo?
Well, the 49ers went 12-5 in the regular season, and they've been question marks being raised by their ability to perform on the big moments. For one, they almost lost to the Packers in the divisional round, but they managed to turn it around. And then they go back and repeat the same experience against the Detroit Lions, and they've shown they can turn it on when it matters. But with a luck run out against the Chiefs.
Well, that's
so
the question. That is the question, of course. And during the regular season, there were criticisms of the Niners that against the big teams, against the best teams, they weren't up to the challenge. But have they proven that now against the Lions and Packers?
It's hard to say. They showed incredible mental resilience just to make it past those two hurdles, right? Just the fact that Joe Shanahan doesn't have the best record in terms of coming from behind, especially when down by 3 as the end of the last quarter. That being said, I think they'll be motivated by the previous loss against the Kansas City Chiefs, as well losing to the Eagles in the final hurdle last year as well. So I think they're gonna have incredible opportunity to right that wrong and to just really cement their legacy.
I think part of any discussion about the 49ers and part of the reason that perhaps this narrative around their sort of come from behind ability has flourished for so long is that actually most of the Kyle Shanahan era in San Francisco, they've just been massive overdogs the whole time. They have had such a loaded roster that, like I said, most of the time they haven't needed to perhaps develop the kind of mental resilience that they have now shown because they've just steamrolled everything in their way, and then as soon as it doesn't go to plan, then they haven't ever been in those situations before and actually had to come from behind. I mean, that's now changed. Obviously, as much as it's to their credit that they were able to come back against the Packers and the Lions, there is obviously the flip side of that. There's, okay, well, what does it say that they were ever behind in those games in the first place? I mean, from my personal experience, watching that Packers game, that was the ropiest I think they looked in a long time. It just, Brock Purdy was, I'm sure we'll touch on him a lot more later, but he did not have his best game. And actually, to say they were almost bailed out by some really incredible catches by the wide receivers. And again, there was that sort of helmet catch 2.0 against the Lions. So they've had some things go their way. Credit to them, they've stuck with it and turned both those games around. But it doesn't scream sort of repeatable in the same way that their sort of offensive domination in the regular season.
That's very true. That's very true. The question is, can they continue with these potentially lucky breaks they've had in the playoffs? But what you have with the Niners is just an absolutely stacked roster.
Yeah.
I mean, Brock Purdy, the quarterback, arguably has been bailed out at times in the playoffs by the likes of Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey. Exactly, Christian McCaffrey, the running back. I mean, just a host of offensive weapons that he has at his disposal. It means
Trent Williams,
Trent
Williams,
Williams,
one of the best linemen in the world.
and that's just on offense.
Well.
Yeah, George Kittle as well.
Yeah, George Kittle, the tight end, all just on offense. And so really, I mean, Brock Purdy he doesn't even have to be his absolute A game for them to win because of all that talent around him. But against this Chiefs defence, will he have to finally be at his best?
I mean, it's been so stated, so widely discussed around the Niners, especially because, you know, both Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey have been right in the thick of the MVP debate, the extent to which we can try and separate out the quarterback from the system they play in and the weapons around them. And I think that's, I mean, it's going to be really, this game is obviously going to just add more fuel to that debate. Exactly, because we saw, you know, like you said, this is the second time they've been to the Super Bowl in 5 years. They this Shanahan system got Jimmy Garoppolo there, and he's all credit to Jimmy Garoppolo. He did well in the system, but no one's arguing he's an elite quarterback in the league, like top 5, top 10 quarterback in the league, and he got them to the Super Bowl. And we've seen what happened since. His career has kind of largely tailed off. So Brock Purdy hasn't had to do that much in the regular season almost, because his receivers are always open, because Shanahan knows to play to dial up. And even when the receivers aren't open, they're so good they can make a contested catch. And now the question becomes, okay, if the Chiefs can force the Niners out of that system, force, you know, Purdy away from the sort of point and shoot style of football he's been allowed to play so far, is he able to make those plays outside of the pocket under pressure? And that's where, given the stakes, that, you know, the game could be won or lost.
I think that's going to be one of the keys to the game. And really, I mean, do you think this is the best 49ers team under Kyle Shanahan that we've seen with Brock Purdy?
On paper, yes. But I do think what goes on in the field is more just about talent and the way the roster fits. And the 49ers, they've ridden their luck at times. I'm not sure if that will continue the trend when they face the Chiefs. I just don't think you can bet against Mahomes and Kelsey. We've done it on the biggest stage before, and it's incredibly difficult to back the 49ers against them, I think.
I think for me personally, this team has been like fantastic from start to finish, but part of me looks back to last year's team when they made that Christian McCaffrey trade, and then because people forget that they went on I think it was like an 8-game winning streak to end the season, going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
All right, but Brock Purdy was only started for 5 of those. When that team really clicked was when they made that Christian McCaffrey trade. What a trade that was, by the way. I can't believe it looks so foolish now that outlets were sort of criticising it as a bad deal for the Niners. They look like they absolutely fleeced the Panthers now. But that 2022 Niners team just hadn't, just like the juggernaut sense to it. I don't know how to explain it. They just felt inevitable. Once Garoppolo went down and everyone thought that the season was done for them, and then Brock Purdy came in and still won, my thinking was these guys are invincible. They can literally put Mr. Irrelevant in at quarterback and have success. And I was actually very annoyed at how their season ended last year. It was
just so unfair, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The way the injuries really derailed their season, with Brock Purdy injured in the NFC Championship game. But now, fully healthy, the 49ers in the Super Bowl. Is this finally their year? And will this finally be the year they win a Super Bowl under Kyle Shanahan? But to do that, they'll have to beat the Chiefs, who they lost to, of course, 4 years ago. Now, we'll get to the Chiefs.
I can do a quick preview of them. So, with the Chiefs, I mean, it really comes down to 3 figures to understand this era of Chiefs football. That's Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback, Travis Kelce, the tight end, and Andy Reid, the head coach. And that trio was right at the heart of the last time these two teams played in the Super Bowl, that thrilling, classic 31-20 win over the 49ers. Had some absolutely iconic moments in that game. You think of Jet Chip Wasp, for those of you who don't know what that was. It's one of the most iconic NFL plays in recent memory to completely change the tide of that Super Bowl. And in that game, the Chiefs scored 21 unanswered points in the last bit of the fourth quarter.
It was the fourth quarter comeback, wasn't it?
To overturn that deficit. And I think that is when, I mean, it was only his second season as a starter, but that is when the legend of playoff Patrick Mahomes began. And I mean, he's done it again. We saw it last season where he got injured against the Jaguars, high ankle sprain, somehow carried that team to an incredible Super Bowl win over the Eagles. And it's like Mo said, it's very difficult to bet against Mahomes, Kelsey, and Andy Reid. Although it is important, actually, I think, with this Chiefs team to note that this regular season hasn't been quite up to their usual standards.
No, I mean, this wasn't the Chiefs' year. People were writing them off before the playoffs even started, finishing 11-6. It wasn't the best regular season that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid have had.
At the same time, it could also be a case of just saving their best for the playoffs, for those big moments. And they've done it time and time again.
Exactly, yeah.
The regular season is just a finished article at this point.
These
are the games that truly matter, especially as far as determining individual legacies and team legacies as well. And the fact that 49ers, they've not won the Super Bowl since 1994. That's going to be a massive, massive weight on their shoulders.
It's going to be on their minds, I'm sure. Yeah.
Whereas with the Chiefs, we've been here, we've done it before, we can do it again. We have arguably the finest quarterback in American football, Travis Kelce as well, and of course we have the incomparable Taylor Swift cheering them on also.
I don't think it's really arguable. I think Mo. I think that undersells just how dominant Patrick Mahomes has been. But I also think it says so much about them that their down year is the number 3 seed in the conference, a division title, and 11 wins still. It is unbelievable. And I read a stat on Twitter around it, and it was like this year he's been a starter for this is his 6th season starting. This is the first time Patrick Mahomes has had to play a playoff game that wasn't the Super Bowl on the road. He's just been that dominant. They've got the number 1 seed, first round buys. Basically every year he's been a starter. It is absolutely ridiculous how good he's been.
The AFC, it's gone through Arrowhead Stadium for years now, and this is the first year that he had to go on the road to Baltimore, to Buffalo. Question marks. Could the Chiefs finally perform and turn it on in the playoffs? And the answer was yes, they could.
Yeah, and so it's a resounding yes.
Resounding yes.
It's for those reasons that you can't really bet against them, I think. I mean, they've just proven it time and time again. Kelce, Mahomes is an unbelievable combination. It's the perfect combination of skill, intelligence, finesse, athleticism. It's everything, intangibles, leadership. It's everything that you would want from a duo, both on and off the pitch. And can the 49ers find an answer to that? Again,
I think perhaps the answer might lie in the fact that in the Mahomes, Kelce, Reid era, they've never, the worst their season has ended is a loss in the AFC Championship game. That is unprecedented. I don't even think that I can't say off the top of my head, but I think even the Patriots would have had the 2010s Patriots would probably have missed one there. They might have run it close actually.
But in terms of the first 6 years of a quarterback and coach pairing it is unprecedented.
It's just historic dominance that we're witnessing here with Mahomes and Reid, and frankly, it's just.
I mean, it's just a great point, isn't it? And the point is, I guess one of the big narratives entering this game is the Chiefs dynasty. If they win this game, what's that?
Well, they're the new kids on the block, right? I mean, like you said before, 6 years, just absolute dominance. If they win here, I mean, they're the greatest dynasty since the Patriots. On the other hand, the 49ers,
third Super Bowl,
first Super Bowl. But at the same time, with the 49ers, if they win, they tie the Steelers and the Pats for most Super Bowl wins in history.
Which is so odd to think about, actually, that the 49ers, which are like one of the premier NFL franchises. Like, you think of the NFL, you think of, the Steelers, the Cowboys, the 49ers, and they haven't won one since 1994 when Steve Young was their quarterback. They won it all with Montana and Steve Young, these Hall of Famers, and now the very last pick in the NFL draft is going to be hoping to 30 years, exactly, 30 years on from their last one. It is very strange to think about.
It'd just be an incredible story, just 30 years since, Mr. Irrelevant joining those Hall of Fame legends, but at the same time, it's a perfect upset for the Chiefs, and
it is
to upset the apple cart there.
And I think the Chiefs have really relished sort of playing the villain in these playoffs. They weren't expected to be here, and yet they are. And there is so much to play for, as we've said, for both quarterbacks. If Mahomes wins, is that the best start to a career that a quarterback has ever had? Quite possibly. And then if Brock Purdy wins, is he on a career trajectory of one of the great 49ers quarterbacks like Joe Montana and Steve Young? So
but
really so much to play for.
But does he not also only join Tom Brady? And who was it? Was the only quarterbacks to beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs?
And Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow, of course,
Wow, that, and again, the fact that only 2 quarterbacks have ever beaten
Mahomes
in the playoffs in 6
that's
years.
That's just an indicator of greatness that we're witnessing here.
Unbelievable. I mean, we're kind of touching on it now. Should we get into some narrative talk?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
for
100%.
this exercise, I've sort of picked out 4 key figures in this Super Bowl and come up with kind of the narratives around them. And if I read them out, we can get your impression of them. And the first person I want to talk about is Kyle Shanahan, because shout out to the Ringer NFL podcast, NFL show, fantastic. But they did a sort of similar concept, and they had a really interesting discussion about how we will remember Kyle Shanahan depending on how this game goes. I mean, he is perhaps the offensive coach of the last decade. Like, the Shanahan offense, the Shanahan system has spread like wildfire.
I mean, you see it just in the other head coaches around the league with Sean McVay, and the
McVay,
whole Shanahan coaching tree is
exactly.
continuing to spread this season with more head coach hires. But
Matt LaFleur,
Yeah,
Mike
LaFleur.
McDonald, all of whom
McDonald.
have seen really
Incredible success.
great success. But he's not won the big one. He's not actually won like much of note. I don't think he's ever been coach of the year either,
No, I don't think he has.
which is very odd. And Ollie, I hate to do this to you. He was also the offensive coordinator for that legendary 2016 Falcons offense, which famously blew a 28-3 lead in Super Bowl 51.
yes, I try and erase that from my memory as much as I can.
Very
but-
quickly, which team was it that they blew it to?
The New England Patriots. So just to rub it in a little further, Ollie. And so then the question I think becomes, if he doesn't win this one, is he kind of viewed as like this heady idealist philosopher, of the game, who lacked the sort of pragmatic winning drive that would have allowed him to win the big one? I mean, because I think to some extent you could argue Sean McVay might have stolen his thunder a little bit as kind of, okay, here's this flashy, talented offensive play caller, but Sean McVay's shown the ability to sort of be pragmatic and adapt and evolve. And maybe Shanahan hasn't had to because he's been so successful, but he doesn't have the ring yet. So I just wanted to get what you guys make of where Kyle Shanahan's legacy might stand.
I think there are two sides you could really view this as. I think with the incredible talent that he's been working with over the years, you could argue he's underperformed in some ways, not being able to win a ring. But at the same time, and again, Ollie, I'm very sorry to bring this up, there's really no shame in losing to the Patriots. I mean, they're an incredible dynasty with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
And to lose to the Chiefs with Mahomes, Reed, Kelsey, I mean, what more can you do, really? It's just greatness that we're seeing.
It is greatness, but if you're Kyle Shanahan, I think he really needs this ring in terms of this legacy. There's a lot on the line for Kyle Shanahan, isn't there? I mean, just a massive game. I mean, he really is one of the main characters.
And to be fair to him, it's not like he's. I think it would be deeply harsh to label him like a playoff choker. Like you've said, they've reached 4 NFC Championship games in the last 5 years. They've made it to the Super Bowl from one of those. Like, they are consistently among the best postseason.
They consistently reach those latter stages there.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
there's only so much that a coach can do. So there is the argument to be made that perhaps it's not really on Shanahan, but really more on the roster that he works with.
But it would just be a vindication of everything he like his footballing
His
principles.
footballing philosophy.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, the next person I've gone with, and I think Kyle Shanahan, he is that organisation. He is locked in. It's his DNA. He's written himself all over it. Another person who might actually be playing for a lot more sort of monetarily, given how little he's on at the moment, is, as we've mentioned before, 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy. To give a bit of context, he was never supposed to be the 49ers starting quarterback. He was kind of thrust into it following injuries last year to Trey Lance and then Jimmy Garoppolo. He's done an incredible job, given he was taken with the very last pick in the 2022 NFL draft, which is where he gets the nickname Mr. Irrelevant from.
And I think he's the first ever 7th round pick to start a Super Bowl at quarterback.
There you
which
go.
just shows,
how utterly rare this is.
Yeah.
But it also shows the amount of work that he's put in since taking those spots, not only being able to have to fill in for not one but 2 injured quarterbacks and to lead a historic franchise like the 49ers to the Super Bowl. And frankly, if he makes it to the end, if he managed to beat the Chiefs, then it'd be an incredible story. And I don't think you could write a better story than that.
And I think beyond like legacy talk, monetarily, I think this is a really interesting game for Brock Purdy because he's on $1 million a year, which is nothing. Like, I mean, he's on the smallest possible amount a quarterback can get paid.
It's an absolute steal of a contract.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And what that means is that that's partly what has allowed the 49ers to construct this sort of Avengers all-star roster with these so many super talented offensive and defensive weapons because they haven't had to pay their quarterback. If Brock Purdy comes out and dominates the Super Bowl with all the regular season success he has, even if he doesn't win MVP, his stats have been fantastic. If he comes out and dominates the Super Bowl and they win, surely next contract time, the 49ers, he can't just be treated as the 7th round pick anymore. He has to earn the top of the line quarterback money. But that's a very different sort of team building model than the 49ers have been able to operate with at the moment. And that raises the question, okay, he'll be good. It won't be possible to deny that he's really good then. But will the team have the same level of success if they can't pay for these superstar weapons?
I think they will have as much roster flexibility as they've been able to enjoy. But at the same time, to win at least one ring with this core would just be an undoubted success. And to bring home the first Super Bowl title since 1994, I think would make it all worth it. For all we know, they could be in the bottom of the basement within 5 to 10 years. But if they beat the Chiefs and bring home that Super Bowl, then I think it will all be worth it. And I think those questions are the kind of things that you think about later. For now, their focus has to be on the game against the Chiefs.
I just think that there is so much riding on this game for the Niners. You know, is this their Super Bowl window with Purdy on this such a low contract and run of form with all this talent around him? There's no guarantee that they'll be healthy again next year or the year after. So this really is their shot, and just so much riding on the game.
And especially almost going out to not only the Packers but the Lions. Who's to say if they meet again next year, would they be able to turn it on again?
Exactly.
The level of teams only gets better every year. And the fact is, I think this is their absolute best chance to win the title.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Think about how many teams we looked at the time and thought, well, they're going to win 2 or 3 or 4. I mean, like, Aaron Rodgers in 2010, you thought you've got a young Aaron Rodgers, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, a great roster, they'll surely be back in the Super Bowl. He never made it back. We look at the Seahawks, when that Legion of Boom Seahawks, okay, they threw it on the 1 yard line when they really shouldn't have, but everyone was like, okay, well, they've already made it to 2, how many further can they go? They never really got close again. No. Those 2015 Panthers, that was their shot. Cam Newton had his year, and they never got close again.
They made it to the playoffs, I think, once after that.
Exactly.
That was it.
And Cam Newton's basically an afterthought in the league at this point.
Exactly.
It just goes to show how quickly success can come and go. And the fact is, the 49ers, this is the absolute best chance to win the title. It's just a shame that it's against an incredible team like the Chiefs.
Okay, let me throw another one. We mentioned his name a lot already, and that is Travis Kelce. And I think it's very difficult to deny that this season he has looked not past it, not washed. I don't like those words, but he's not been at his best. This is the first time in, I think, 8 seasons he's failed to hit 1,000 yards receiving. His touchdowns have more than halved. He's just not been the same force of nature that we've been used to seeing, which is to be expected. He was a sort of ageless wonder up until this point, and I think Father Time has finally sort of started to show itself in the regular season. In the postseason, it's been a very, very different story. He's been phenomenal, and there are a couple of other things around him as well. So his brother Jason has kind of semi-announced his retirement. If Travis wins this, announces his retirement, him and his brother would almost certainly go into the Hall of Fame together. Absolutely. In a few years' time, which has to be a really powerful thing for them. And also, there's this looming spectre of Taylor Swift, and I think he's basically become the face of the league overnight through his relationship with Taylor Swift, become the most famous NFL player on the planet, and been subject to a lot more scrutiny as a result. And actually, a lot of eyes are going to be on him. And so the question I wanted to ask you guys, Ollie in particular, is if he wins this one, is he then the best tight end of all time? Has he surpassed Rob Gronkowski of the Patriots?
I think it's a great question because Gronkowski was just so dominant. Statistically, he's always he's been the benchmark for Kelsey, and for a while it didn't look like Kelsey would ever really catch him. But this, late surge over the last few years with Patrick Mahomes has really elevated Kelsey's argument in that debate. And so I think if he performs like he has against the Ravens and against the Bills, maybe, if he's perhaps the Super Bowl MVP, is that now a real debate?
Yeah.
I think records are there to be broken. I think just the fact that Kelsey's emergence so soon after Gronk, and well, naturally it's a shame not to see Gronk anymore on the pitch, but the fact is, if Kelsey pulls this out of the bag, especially, as Dee's mentioned before, Father Time starting to catch up with him a little bit, if he pulls it out of the bag now, I think you have a very difficult case to be made against anointing him as the greatest ever, greatest title.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, Mo. I think to give my own 2 cents on it, I don't think, just from watching them, I don't think there'll ever be another tight end quite like Rob Gronkowski. I think he was just a freak. Yeah. He was so unbelievably dominant. But actually, there's more to it than, because he was plagued by injury. There's more to it, isn't there? And actually, I think when it's all said and done, the hardware, the accumulation of yards, the sort of career profile, is going to favour Kelsey. Gronk might have burned brighter, perhaps, but Kelsey has burnt longer. Okay, and then the last name I had that I wanted to run by you, which again central to this game, is Patrick Mahomes himself. I think both of you will agree he has nothing left to prove. He's already won everything the sport has to offer more than once. I think the only name, and we have mentioned his name already, the only name we should ever be bringing up in Patrick Mahomes' discussion is Tom Brady. And now it just becomes a question of, can Mahomes catch Brady? He's 28 now, smack dab in the middle of his physical prime. Didn't have his best season, but then again, they made it to the Super Bowl again. So if he wins this one, then do we start saying, okay, maybe Brady's place as the GOAT, the best player of all time, is suddenly no longer quite as much of a certainty as it seemed even a couple of years ago?
I think it's just a brilliant question to start with. The fact of the matter is, like I said, Brady is the GOAT. But if Mahomes pulls out of the bag, it's a very credible case to be made that in terms of peak, he may have surpassed Brady already. And the only thing that you could argue that Brady has over Mahomes is a longevity. But we never Chiefs are an incredibly competent organisation. 49ers have a stacked roster, but so do the Chiefs, let's face it. And the fact is, if the Chiefs can continue to perform the way that they do, in terms of a trade, in terms of a draft, in terms of a coaching structure and everything, then I see no reason why Mahomes can't emulate those heights and perhaps even surpass Brady as the GOAT.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Tom Brady is that he had those 3 early Super Bowls in his career, like Mahomes is trying to do, but he was then able to, the Patriots underwent a whole rebuild, and then he won 2 more with the Patriots and again with the Buccaneers, into his late 30s and 40s. So I think for Mahomes, there's still a long way to go. Even if he wins this game, there's a long way to go in catching Tom Brady. But in terms of his achievements, 2-time NFL MVP, 2-time Super Bowl MVP, I think if he does win this game, he's on the right trajectory to really challenging Tom Brady.
I think Tom Brady's such a weird one to me because I think when Tom Brady was at his best, that was when the Patriots didn't win. I think those first 3 Super Bowls that the Patriots won in the early 2000s, that was much more of a team. I don't think Brady had grown into the player he would become then. And I think actually, on an individual, purely, like Mo said, like peak level, I think Mahomes, in his Super Bowls thus far, has been better than Brady was in his. And then Brady sort of exploded from 2007 to 2011, 2012, didn't win a Super Bowl, but then had that freakishly long longevity to kind of make up for those the years where he didn't win in his prime. But
especially also the Patriots being able to put themselves in a position for success, drafting players like Gronkowski as well.
Well, exactly, and then that just doesn't seem like, that seems like such an anomaly. You're like, well, doesn't see, unless Mahomes is winning rings now, it doesn't seem like you're going to be able to have that weird, that organisational longevity.
No, I mean that is the point. Patrick Mahomes, I think, like you said, in his first season when they reached the AFC Championship game and they lost to Tom Brady, I mean he was just like he was shot out of a cannon. 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, MVP. In terms of a start to a career, I think if he does win this game, Mahomes probably has the argument that he has had the best start to a career, but the question will be down the line whether he can rack up the Super Bowls like Tom Brady. Now, of course, in terms of this year's Super Bowl, the key matchups that we're looking at that are going to decide this game, I think the big key to the game will be which team has the best start. I think both teams will want to put points on the board in the first half, with both teams wanting to lead on the run game, 49ers especially, with Christian McCaffrey. Lead on that run game.
Possible? Are we
favourite for offensive player of the year?
I think it has to be him. Yeah.
There's no question. Christian McCaffrey is this year's NFL Player of the Year.
Offensive player of the year, and trying to lean on him and not minimise Brock Purdy, but let him get into a rhythm, lean on that run game, and not let the occasion get to him too much. Whereas the Chiefs, they'll want to grab the lead, force the 49ers into throwing and potentially putting pressure on Brock Purdy. So I think the first half is going to be vital. Yeah,
the 49ers can be had. The two teams are evenly matched, but like we've seen before in the divisional game against the Packers and in championship game against the Lions, there's a definite weakness there, and the Chiefs will definitely want to be leaning on that and just to force Purdy into those mistakes.
I mean, what's been so remarkable about how good the Niners have been passing has been that their offensive line, outside of Trent Williams, isn't all that great at pass blocking. And I just think that could be a problem it almost certainly will be a problem when you've got Chris Jones, one of the 2 or 3 best interior defensive linemen in the league, absolutely causing havoc up the middle. And I think it will be interesting to see if he does get through that line, and I think he probably stands a pretty good chance of doing so. That will put Purdy under a lot of pressure. He won't be able to sit back in the pocket, get through his reads and throw it. He'll be forced into those kind of sort of Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, scramble drill type outside the pocket plays. That's where the really elite quarterbacks shine. And he's been good under pressure this season. And like they say, they have George Kittle. He's an elite blocker as well to kind of aid in the pass blocking. But I just think if Chris Jones can get into the Niners backfield, they could blow up basically a lot of their passing attack.
Yeah, and then the thing with the Chiefs' defense is that it isn't just Chris Jones this year. This is by far the best defense Patrick Mahomes has ever had to complement his offense. And you have to give big credit to defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo, who, I mean, the difficulty you have against playing the Chiefs is you don't know where the pressure is coming from sometimes. And Brock Purdy, as a young quarterback on the biggest stage, is going to have to diagnose that defense and know where the blitzers are coming, and whether he can do that is going to be a big key to the game.
But at the same time, that's where legacies are made, right? That's where you separate the great from the truly great. And if Purdy can, like you said, if Purdy can make those reads, then the 49ers will be in an excellent position to win the Super Bowl, I feel.
I mean, this is, like you say, undeniably the best the defense has been in the Patrick Mahomes era. I mean, they only put up 17 points in the AFC Championship game. Didn't score in the second half, right?
They didn't.
And they still won by a touchdown because the defense kept the Ravens to just 10 points. Like, this is a really, really elite defense. And we know Mahomes can turn it on in the big moments, but actually having that cushion of, however the passing game goes, maybe the receivers start playing up again, having that defense as kind of like a backstop got to be a real big confidence boost for the Chiefs.
Absolutely. I honestly could not agree more.
Yeah, but of course the Chiefs, bit of a down year on offense for them in the regular season, but they have turned it on in the playoffs, and of course that's because of the connection Patrick Mahomes has with Travis Kelce. Of course, the most touchdowns in postseason history between a quarterback and a receiver, Mahomes and Kelce, just unprecedented levels of production in the playoffs. Can this 49ers defense stop Kelce though? And they're so strong in the centre of the field, which is where Kelce wants to do his damage.
It's where he flourishes.
It's where he flourishes. So can they stop him in this game?
This is a difficult question. The 49ers defense, the star men, you might say, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, they'll have their hands full against the likes of Travis Kelce. But at the same time, it's been shown that defense can be had. They can turn it on when it matters, but they've been inconsistent all playoffs. And if there's any one team that you do not want to face, if you don't want to bring that inconsistency against, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. And frankly, I don't know if the 49ers defense is up to it.
I mean, they're like, Fred Warner is a superstar. He's probably the best in the league at his position. but their pass defense over the middle of the field has just been so-so. It's not been spectacular. And the problem with that is, okay, they're not going to give up home run plays to Travis Kelce, but he doesn't need them all the time. The Chiefs can just get those simple first downs, those conversions.
He's arguably the best in the league in just moving the chains,
Exactly,
getting those first
and just
downs.
kind of grind their way down the field if they have to. And that's got to be really dispiriting of, we're on him immediately, but they've still got the first down. And then we have to do that again and again and again, and they walk it in for a touchdown. Mm-hmm. And I think if they're going to have to be swarming him from the jump, basically, like force Patrick Mahomes to throw to someone other than Travis Kelce. Otherwise, it's going to be a very long day.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think ball security this is going to be a major factor in this game because, Mahomes and the Chiefs have been so successful in the playoffs by, being secure with the ball, not turning it over. Isaiah Pacheco in the run game has been really important for them as well. And they forced, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, these MVP caliber quarterbacks into making mistakes against that defense. And Brock Purdy, as good as he's been, is he Josh Allen? Is he Lamar Jackson?
Is Lamar Jackson even Lamar Jackson?
But better quarterbacks have struggled and lost to this Chiefs team. So really,
at the same time, how much of that could you say is down to, I suppose, the Chiefs' aura? Lamar Jackson, unfortunately, he has a history of wilting when it really matters as well, and Josh Allen as well.
So I'm a big Josh Allen
Safe
fan.
space.
Yeah,
safe
no, I
space,
know,
safe
but
space.
it's hard to argue.
Don't worry. But at the same time, Brock Purdy, I think he's met every challenge so far in his nascent career, especially come from that background of being Mr. Irrelevant, being accused of just being the game manager. If there's anyone to back as to not wilting, in front of the Chiefs, it's hard to argue against Brock Purdy, frankly.
And before we move on to predictions, I just wanted to shout out one individual one-on-one matchup that I'm really looking forward to, and that is Brandon Ayuk versus L'Jarius Sneed. So Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver, been one of the best wide receivers against man coverage in the entire league this year. Breakout year, really. I think he made second team All-Pro, easily smashed his personal best in terms of yards, touchdowns. Like, he has had a really, really elite season. But then again, L'Jarius Sneed is one of the best lockdown man defense corners in the league. You put him on the other team's top weapon and he's going to have a rough night. So I think it will be, like we saw it against Miami, that sort of vaunted Miami attack. L'Jarius Sneed really did a number on Tyreek Hill, who is probably the best receiver in the league. And, Ayuk is phenomenal. But he's not Tyreek Hill. So it's a real fascinating strength on strength matchup. I think it'd be a really good one to keep an eye out for.
And there are just so many of those all over the field because it's not just Ayuk for the 49ers, it's Deebo Samuel, it's Christian McCaffrey, it's George Kittle. So the Chiefs are going to have their hands full. Are they up to the challenge? Predictions? I've gone for a Chiefs win 27-24. I've had enough of betting against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I think when the lights are the brightest on the biggest stage, they've proven that, and Mahomes especially, if you need a drive, you need one touchdown to win the game, who else would you rather have than Patrick Mahomes? And I can't look past the Kansas City Chiefs.
I honestly could not agree more, frankly. Mahomes, if you'll excuse a comparison to another sport, some of LeBron James in the NBA, you can never bet against LeBron. Mahomes will deliver when it matters. And the Chiefs as well, with the history of the past few years, I don't think he can bet against the Chiefs. Frankly, I think he'd be a foolish man to bet against the Chiefs. And that's why I back the Chiefs to win 24-21. I think the 49ers will keep it close. I just don't think... I think the luck will run out against the Chiefs.
Well, I must be a foolish man then, though, because I am backing the 49ers. Partly it's a heart pick because I'm sick of the Chiefs winning and I want someone else to have a go. But also, I do think that this 49ers roster is so stacked, and they have margin for error. If the passing doesn't work, they have the best running back in the league. McCaffrey's not having his day, they have the best passing attack in the league. They are a phenomenal team. And don't get me wrong, I think it'll be very, very close. I don't think this is going to be a walkover by any means. I think it's going to be another classic, like we said. I think if I had to pick, maybe 24-17. But I'm not. If Mahomes does end up winning, I won't be too surprised, even though I'm not all that happy about it.
I mean, Patrick Mahomes 3-0 against the Niners in his career, beat the Niners.
And let's face it, the Chiefs, they're already a much better team than the Lions and the Packers.
Yeah. So
we're not going to see. It's very incredibly unlikely, and I'll look so stupid if I'm proven wrong. But it's incredibly unlikely that the Chiefs are just gonna choke the game again, like the Lions did. 49ers are there to be had. I don't think you can make those mistakes against the Chiefs and recover. And frankly, I can't see beyond the Chiefs for this game.
Yeah, well, whoever does win, I think we can be sure we'll have a good game on our hands and a very close game. So we'll all be tuning in. I hope you will be too. Sunday, 11th of February, Super Bowl 58. Thanks for watching.